Let's go on a nostalgia trip. Goat Simulator released in 2014 with a subsequent remaster and a sequel with Goat Simulator 3 releasing 10 years later in 2024. Goat Simulator 3 is definitely a very popular and well-loved game, but the original Goat Simulator had a massive cultural impact in gaming at the time, and it seemed like everyone tried it out. I've definitely had a lot of fun over the years between messing around doing random stuff, specifically going for some achievements, or really diving into the different maps. The game released with a single map known as Goatville, which most people who have ever played the game should be familiar with. This is the most traditional classic experience that lets you run around the world and do random goat things, aka the core idea of the entire game. This map is a good example of how fun this game is in the sense of there being a ton of secrets hidden around the map that you can uncover and different things you can explore in general. There's then the next major update with Goat City Bay that is basically the exact same vibe as Goatville, but with a completely new area featuring new content and secrets to discover. Jumping ahead a tiny bit, 3 DLCs were added to the game that add new areas, secrets, but more importantly, major gameplay mechanics. There's Goat Z, which is a parody of DayZ and other zombie survival games. It basically incorporates ideas you would expect from those types of games, but into what we see with Goat Simulator. Then there is Goat Payday, which is a similar idea, but is a parody of Payday. It incorporates the vibes and ideas of Payday to some extent, but into the ideas we see with Goat Simulator. And then finally, there is Waste of Space, which isn't a direct reference to any specific thing, but is a combination of major references to different sci-fi movies, TV shows, and games like Star Wars and Mass Effect. Different people have different opinions about DLC, but to generally say, I like each of the DLCs as somebody who just likes messing around with Goat Simulator and finding different secrets and whatnot. But in between the 2 original maps and the 3 DLC, there was one more map that is above and beyond my favorite thing in Goat Simulator, Goat MMO Simulator. This is honestly an incredible idea for a map that really does fit into the overarching vibes of Goat Simulator, with this being an incredible opportunity to just mess around in a very fun environment. As you load in, there's a fun simulated login screen like you would expect to see with an MMO, and then you can get to the character creation screen where you can pick one of the classes, those classes being Tank, Rogue, Magician, Hunter, Microwave, or No Class. We're really combining the fantasy vibes of an MMO with the whimsy of Goat Simulator here, and anyone who has played Goat MMO Simulator before probably remembers running around the map once you pick your class. Just like the other maps, there are a lot of areas that you can explore. I don't know the exact statistic, but this map in particular does feel a fair bit bigger than the other maps, which is good because you can actually really dive into this world and explore a lot of stuff. Goat Simulator is a single player or co-op game, so an MMO simulator is actually exactly what you would expect from the name. It is a simulator of an MMO. There are a lot of things present within this game that makes it kind of feel like you are playing an MMO, but in reality, you're just playing by yourself or with some friends if you are playing co-op. The classes is just one part, but when you log into the game, you automatically join different chats with automated messages spamming it that makes it feel like other people are talking. There are a ton of NPCs running around the world, including quest givers that let you go out in the world and complete objectives to then complete the quest and gain experience, and then you can gain experience through other methods such as by licking stuff. But on top of the NPCs you would expect to see, there are NPCs acting as simulated players as well. They are just walking around the world, doing random things, and you can see them doing those things and even interact with them to some extent. On top of that, there are simulated rival players on the opposite faction who are attacking this area, and you can fight them in simulated player versus player combat. You see, you are playing as a goat and are surrounded by all of your goat friends, but the enemy faction are sheeps and you need to defend this area against them. There are different enemies like mermaids and demons you can fight, and just a bunch of unique environments and regions with interesting stuff going on. Overall, it is just a really fun map to mess around on, explore for a bit, and discover some interesting secrets. But I think there's a very interesting idea that is present here on a foundational level. This is basically a single player MMO, despite how silly it is in general. A lot of people love MMOs and the gameplay present in it, Exploring vast open worlds, completing quests, fighting monsters, and exploring through dungeons and raids is the biggest aspect of MMORPGs, and MMORPGs do it in such a unique way compared to other games. If you want the very specific type of gameplay that is present in an MMORPG, you have to play an MMORPG. But for a lot of people, the multiplayer aspect of MMOs is something that some people don't enjoy, especially in certain games where the community can be a bit inhospitable to other players, especially to new or more casual players. As such, certain MMORPGs can feel uninviting for certain players who may enjoy the content of the game, but are turned away by the community. Goat Simulator MMO is a very interesting idea in the sense that it kind of provides the vibes and essences of the gameplay aspects of an MMO, but in a simulated single-player world. So for people who maybe love the gameplay of an MMO, but not interacting with other players for whatever reason they may have, this version of an MMO is maybe a good option for them. Now obviously this is pretty far from an actual MMORPG that you would typically want to experience, and is a very unique game that is very fun in its own way. But there are some other games that exist that take this idea but do it in a more serious way of creating what basically feels exactly like a single player MMORPG, and this is definitely something I am super interested in looking at more, especially one game in particular, but I will save that for the future. Returning to Goat MMO Simulator, let's take some time to dive further into it and see some of the fun stuff that exists within the world. As the game is a parody of MMORPGs, there are a lot of references to and vibes taken from pre-existing MMOs, but also other fantasy games in general. World of Warcraft is obviously the most influential game here, with the entire design of the map and the capital city being Goatwind, which is a reference to Stormwind, alongside the town located outside of Goatwind being Goatshire, which is a reference to Goldshire located outside of Stormwind. Additionally, there's Gold Farm, which kind of feels like one of the farms you would find in Elven Forest or Westfall, which is supported by the fact that there are gold harvest golems, just like the harvest reapers out in Westfall. Out to the west is Glar Blargo Beach, featuring mermaids, which are kind of similar in vibes to Murlocs, with Glar Blargo sounding like something a Murloc would say. Alvesta is a town in the northwestern corner that is home to the elves. It just feels like an incredibly magical place, but located beneath the tallest tree is Excalibur, a legendary sword referenced in many games that plays a part in an achievement to pull it out of the stone, but is also a very popular thing to lick in order to get a lot of experience. There's also a big reference to The Legend of Zelda here, with Excalibur Stone having a broken Triforce logo. Twistrim is a funny reference to the iconic town of Tristram from the Diablo franchise. This location has phenomenal vibes and is just a very interesting location to visit, but there is a massive Easter egg here with the not-so-secret cow farm, which is a reference to the secret cow level from Diablo. You can go to the Twistrim Cathedral, another small reference to Diablo, and knock over the fancy table to drop into a hole and run through a portal to enter this area, with this area being absolutely crazy, with a ton of cows walking on two legs and shooting lasers at you out of their eyes. There's also a reference to Alice in Wonderland with the secret launch pad. By the lake in the southern central part of the map, you can find Alice next to this rabbit hole that you can jump inside of. Doing so takes you to a dev room featuring a launch pad that you can jump on to make music and most likely fall underneath of at some point. Old Goat Mountain is a cool location that I have a couple of things to say about. This area in general feels cool, with the vibes that it is a major in-game area that you would come to in order to fight powerful monsters like the demons around here, and also features the entrance to a piece of instance content. But there is a bit of a reference to Lord of the Rings here, where you can jump into a hidden launch pad in the lava at the top of this area to be launched up into the sky and eventually reach the highest tower. The tower itself, that is featuring the purple orb, alongside this entire environment, just feels a lot like Mordor. Another really cool part about this area is what is maybe the coolest of the quests in the game. All the way in Goatwind, you can find the key and pick up the quest called the Old Goat Menace. You then have to journey across the land, climb up Old Goat Mountain, and enter the dungeon located here. You can navigate through the dungeon, trying to avoid but likely inevitably triggering all the traps in here to reach the end. At the end is a massive room with the Old Goat. This is a massive T-Rex enemy that finding will grant you an achievement and a mutator to transform into him, but you can then slay this monster to complete the quest. In many ways, this is like the main boss in the game. Returning to Goatwind, there is some fun stuff here as well. The main guards located here are called the Isengard, an obvious reference to Isengard from The Lord of the Rings. Up at the castle, the throne room itself really reminds me of a mashup between the Stormwind throne room and the Lordaeron throne room from World of Warcraft. And the king himself located here is funny because he has a randomly generated name which changes every time you load the game, which could mean in whatever lore we want to say this game has, the king is constantly changing. Which this game having lore is kind of a funny idea and is not the purpose of the game at all, but still there was an amount of world building done to create this entire MMO level, featuring unique areas, quests, monsters, and so many other background things that all come together to create what in reality can be considered a fully unique fantasy world. And for me, it is just really fun to explore it for that reason and to experience the environments and unique activities that were created here. I will also mention something I've never personally experienced, but is something that is notable to shout out, is that Goat Simulator has some mobile exclusive levels, one of which is Goat MMO Winter or whatever, with the acronym being WoW, which is the same as World of Warcraft, but this is just another MMO level with different NPCs, areas to explore, and unique quests. And with that level, as well as the main MMO levels, I just want to reiterate that this entire thing is just a really fun idea. I've loved exploring the MMO level in Goat Simulator over the years, and wanted to share it with others here. Additionally, the idea of a single-player MMO is incredibly fun and interesting. In the future, I want to dive deeper into this concept. Thank you all so much for watching, take good care of yourselves.